Hey everyone, Connor here, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on some news that came out very recently about the lawsuit that we organized against Pleasant Grove. This was over an issue of taxes versus fees, and what's been happening is there's about a dozen cities throughout Utah that in recent years have begun imposing transportation utility fees on the utility bills of their residents rather than going through taxes, which is politically difficult and you have to answer more to the people, whereas with the utility fee they can just tack these fees on. The problem is that the Utah Supreme Court has been fairly clear in the past about what a fee is, and a fee needs to be for a specific service. For example, if you want a garbage can, the city can quantify, whether they outsource it or do it themselves, how much it costs to provide garbage service divided by the number of residents, and then they can figure out what that charge is. Additionally, if you wanted a second garbage can, they could obviously then double that price because that is a specific service that you are receiving. Roads is different. Cities lack the ability to determine if you drive 10 times more than your neighbor, or if another neighbor is a shut-in and doesn't drive at all. And so for that reason and others, roads have always been funded through general taxation because, for example, someone from another state could even drive in and spend a month driving on all the roads in that city, and then they're not charged. These are general services provided by the government, not specific services provided to people. And so what has happened is that these cities have tried to enact a transportation utility fee, even though roads are not a fee. They can't determine what is the specific service being provided to an individual. And so it's kind of a bad way for them to abuse the fee mechanism when it's really a tax. It's a hidden tax. So we brought this lawsuit against Pleasant Grove in part because they were the first city when we first started looking at this to go ahead and do it. So this was about a year and a half ago, and a judge just recently agreed with us in the sense that this is a tax and it should be done through taxes rather than being done as a fee. For the reason I said, that roads are a general benefit for everyone, regardless of whether you live in the city or not, and not a specific benefit being given to someone such as if they had trash service delivered to them. So that's the long and short of it. So the real question that we've been asked is, well, what's next? And at this point, we're waiting to hear if Pleasant Grove intends to appeal the lawsuit or not. As I said, there are a number of other cities that do this. And so whether they all appeal the case and we go up to the appellate court or the Utah Supreme Court, or if they don't appeal the case and we go after Provo next and go after Mapleton and Vineyard and Highland and other cities. Those things are still being decided to figure out what the next steps are. At this point, we're waiting to see if Pleasant Grove intends to appeal. So why is this important? This is important because we have to hold government accountable, and the more that they can start nickeling and diming people for things rather than going through the truth and taxation process, being accountable to their voters, raising taxes, those are things that are set for a reason. And if elected officials are trying to avoid that process and trying to have an easier way that they can generate revenue, even if a city like Pleasant Grove or other cities need more funding, these are things that should be done in the proper way, and where the court had already said, here's what fees are and here's what they're not. We felt and feel like these transportation utility fees and other fees that are like them, for example, there's another city that is enacting fees for streetlights, that these are improper. These are really to be done through taxes. We're not obviously fans of property taxes or anything else, and there's certainly opportunity to go reform those issues and address them. But on this specific issue of trying to abuse the fee process and enact these hidden taxes, that's a concern. It should be a concern for all of us. So we're very pleased with how the judge ruled. We think the judge rightly interpreted the existing case law of what the Utah Supreme Court has said. And so in the months to come, we'll be watching this closely. We'll see if this goes up on appeal or if we're going to go and talk to some other cities and hold them accountable as well. That is all to come. So throughout 2020, we'll be watching this issue closely, and we'll keep you updated along the way.